The rain battered the windows of the small, weathered house on Maple Street, a relentless drumbeat that matched the ache in Daniel's chest. It was a Friday night, and the world outside felt as heavy as the silence within. At 36, Daniel was a man who wore his kindness like an old coat, comfortable, unassuming, but frayed at the edges. He'd been raising his 7-year-old daughter, Lily, alone since his wife, Sarah, passed 3 years ago. Grief had carved a quiet strength into him, but it also left a hollow space no amount of love for Lily could fill. He was stirring a pot of macaroni when the knock came, soft at first, then urgent, like a heartbeat fighting to be heard. Daniel wiped his hands on a dish towel, frowning. No one visited unannounced, not in this sleepy town where everyone knew everyone's business. Lily looked up from her coloring book at the kitchen table, her brown eyes wide. "Who's that, Daddy?" she asked, clutching a green crayon. "Not sure, sweetheart," he said, forcing a smile. He crossed to the front door, the floorboards creaking under his work boots, and opened it to a sight that stopped him cold. A girl stood there, no older than 18, soaked to the bone. Her dark hair clung to her pale face, and her eyes, big, haunted, and gray as the storm, darted nervously. She clutched a tattered backpack to her chest like it was her only anchor. Her lips trembled, but no words came. She looked like a ghost, not just from the rain but from something deeper, something that made Daniel's heart twist. "Hey," he said gently, his voice the one he used when Lily had nightmares. "You okay?" The girl shook her head, a small, jerky motion. Her jacket was too thin for the cold, and her sneakers were falling apart, the soles flapping like broken wings. "Come in, get out of the rain," he said, stepping aside. She hesitated, glancing over her shoulder as if expecting someone to drag her back into the storm, then crossed the threshold, dripping water onto the worn rug. Lily peeked from the kitchen doorway, curious but shy. Daniel crouched to her level. "Lily, can you grab a towel from the bathroom?" She nodded and scampered off, her ponytail bouncing. The girl stood frozen, her eyes scanning the room, modest furniture, a framed photo of Daniel and Sarah laughing, Lily's toys scattered like bright confetti. "I'm Daniel," he said, keeping his distance to avoid spooking her. "What's your name?" She swallowed hard, her voice barely a whisper. "Emma." It was all she offered, but it was enough for now. Lily returned with a towel, holding it out like a gift. Emma took it with shaking hands, murmuring a thank you so soft it was almost lost. Daniel gestured to the couch. "Sit. I've got food on the stove. You hungry?" Emma's eyes flickered with something, need, maybe shame, but she nodded. Over macaroni and cheese, served in mismatched bowls, Daniel didn't pry. He knew fear when he saw it, and Emma wore it like a second skin. Lily, oblivious to the tension, chattered about her day at school, her words filling the silence. Emma listened, her shoulders loosening slightly, and when Lily offered her a crayon to draw with, she hesitated only a moment before taking it. Daniel watched, his heart swelling at his daughter's effortless kindness, but his mind raced. Who was this girl? What had driven her to his doorstep? When Lily was tucked into bed, Daniel found Emma still on the couch, staring at the towel in her lap. "You don't have to tell me anything," he said, sitting in the armchair across from her, "but you can't go back out in that storm. You can stay here tonight. Couch is yours." Her eyes welled up, and she bit her lip, nodding. "Thank you," she whispered, and it carried the weight of 1,000 unsaid things. The next morning, Daniel woke to the smell of coffee and the sight of Emma folding the blanket he'd given her, her movements careful, as if she didn't want to leave a trace. Lily was already up, showing Emma her favorite stuffed bunny. Daniel made pancakes, and over breakfast, Emma let slip small pieces of her story, not much, but enough. She'd aged out of foster care a month ago, had nowhere to go, and had been couch surfing until a bad situation forced her to run. She didn't say what, but the way her hands shook when she mentioned it told Daniel it wasn't good. He should have called someone, social services, maybe, but something stopped him. Maybe it was the way Emma smiled faintly when Lily giggled, or how she'd washed the dishes last night without being asked. Instead, he offered her the guest room, just for a few days, he said, until she figured things out. Emma looked at him like he'd handed her the moon, and though she tried to refuse, the relief in her eyes betrayed her. Days turned into weeks. Emma became a quiet presence in the house, helping with chores, reading to Lily, even teaching her how to braid her hair. Daniel saw her slowly come alive, her laughter rare but precious, like sunlight breaking through clouds. But there were nights when he'd find her on the couch, staring out the window, her face etched with a pain she wouldn't share. He didn't push, but he left the light on in the kitchen, a silent signal she wasn't alone. One evening, as they carved pumpkins for Halloween, Emma opened up. Her mother had died when she was 6, her father was never in the picture, and the foster system had been a carousel of indifference and cruelty. She'd learned to survive by being invisible, but it had cost her trust, hope, maybe even herself. Daniel listened, his throat tight, thinking of Sarah, who'd always said kindness was the bravest thing you could offer. "You're not invisible here," he said, and Emma's eyes shimmered with tears she didn't let fall. Lily, oblivious to the weight of the moment, plopped a pumpkin seed on Emma's nose, and the tension broke with laughter. That night, Daniel realized Emma wasn't just a guest anymore, she was family, not by blood but by something stronger. He started looking into community college programs for her, talked to a friend about job openings at the diner. Emma resisted at first, afraid of being a burden, but Daniel was stubborn, too. "You're worth it," he told her, and for the first time, she didn't look away. The turning point came on Lily's 8th birthday. Emma, with money she'd earned from odd jobs, bought Lily a small charm for her bracelet, a tiny book, because Lily loved stories. When Lily hugged her, Emma froze, then hugged back, her face a mix of joy and disbelief. Later, Daniel found a note on the kitchen counter in Emma's handwriting, "Thank you for seeing me." He kept it next to the drawing, now taped to the fridge. Months passed, and Emma enrolled in college, studying art, her sketches filling the house with color and life. She got a part-time job, and moved into a shared apartment nearby, but she still came over for Sunday dinners, her place at the table permanent. Daniel watched her grow, stronger, surer, the fear in her eyes replaced by something like peace. Lily adored her, calling her Emmy, and Daniel, well, he felt whole again, in a way he hadn't since Sarah. One spring evening, as they sat on the porch watching Lily chase fireflies, Emma turned to Daniel. "I was so scared that night," she said, her voice steady now. "I thought you'd turn me away. Why didn't you?" He looked at her, his smile soft. "Because you looked like someone who needed a chance to be found." Emma's hand found his, squeezing it briefly, a gesture that said everything. Years later, at Emma's college graduation, Daniel and Lily sat in the front row, cheering louder than anyone. Emma crossed the stage, her gray eyes bright with pride. She'd made it, not just through school, but through a life rebuilt from ashes. As they celebrated over ice cream, Lily, now 12, leaned against Emma and said, "You're my sister, right?" Emma laughed, pulling her close. "Always, kid." Daniel watched them, his heart so full it hurt. He thought of that rainy night, the knock, the girl with nothing but a backpack and fear. She'd come to his door a stranger, but she'd left as family, proof that sometimes, kindness could light a path no one saw coming, a path that changed them all forever.